30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It's a beautiful and also windy as all get out Monday afternoon in Nashville, Tennessee. Beautiful weather up into the 70s. Hopefully it'll stay that way. Do you realize we're almost at the end of February, which means we're almost at the start of March, and that is a good thing. Let's head up to the plateau, which is equally as windy, and say hello to Coach Watson Brown. Watson, how are you?
George, I'm doing great. The sun just came out here, so I guess the good Lord just is shining on this show.
Yeah.
Because the sun came out absolutely as you came on live. So the weatherman appeared and the sun came out.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
So no golf today.
No.
Ball would kind of go, woo.
Yeah, no. Thermo golfer, babe. I don't play in the wind. I don't play in the rain. I don't play in the cold weather. Thermo golfer.
Yeah. Billy, how are you today?
I'm great, George. Would you call yourself a thermo golfer as well, or what's your golf game category?
How about poor?
Poor is probably being nice. Here's a word that you don't hear very often: rancid. Smells bad.
I'm sure Watson knows from some experience.
Rancid. He and I have never played, mostly
Really?
because
I've seen him swing. I was at a tournament we were in once, and I saw him, and I said, "Woof, woof." That was the word I used.
Wow.
Woof.
That's nice.
Oh,
That's really pleasant.
Yeah, I saw the ball did come off the ground on the swing. I saw.
Mm-hmm.
well, that's good.
Yeah, so did
it
I.
came off the ground. I didn't see where it ended up, so that ought to tell you that it probably was not in the fairway when it's.
Billy, let's move right to the important issues of the day, shall we?
Yes, I would say David Poile retiring is a little bit more important than your golf game, George.
Yes.
The only GM in the history of the Preds, he announced today that he's going to retire after this season. And Barry Trotz, the franchise's first ever and winningest head coach, will take the reins as GM on July 1st, 2023. George, I mean, we were talking about this off air. We've talked about it several times. That's the guy you said was fit for the job, Barry Trotz.
Well, let me now kind of tell you what I've thought I've known for a while, because I've been saying things on this show like the elephant in the room is Barry Trotz. About a month, 6 weeks ago, I found out that he was attending games and they were doing a really good job of getting him in a suite where nobody could see him. And that was a smart thing on the franchise's part. The other thing, I got a report from a friend who shall remain nameless, Watson, that Barry and John Hines went across the street one day to the Hilton, and Barry had one of those little magnetic coaching things, where you move pieces around, like, okay, for the power play, you go here and you go here.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard that, I was like, there's something to this.
Yeah. And I'd heard they were decent friends prior to all of this too.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's a good move. I really do. Barry's been in the business long enough. He can be a GM. He's been around it. I think this is a great move for the Preds. Amazing, George, in the history of Nashville and these professional sports, that both GMs go in the same year. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
Yeah, it's It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and George, there's a big move with Tanner Jeannot being traded. Also, Nino Niederreiter being dealt. The Preds have turned those two players into a first-round pick in 2025, a second-round pick in 2024, a third-round pick this year, a fourth-round pick this year, and a fifth-round pick this year, and also former first-round pick Cal Foote. So they got a lot in return for dealing Jeannot and Niederreiter in a move that I think most Preds fans are happy with.
Yeah, I think they need to do more of it. And I think they need to be open to some people they're not open to. Let me go back on all of this. In the hockey world, your lifeblood is the season ticket holder. It just is. You don't have a lot of TV money. The TV money is minuscule compared to some other sports. Predator season ticket holders have not been very happy. And I know that. I'm one of them, and I hear a lot of it leaving the building on certain nights. I have believed for a while that this was the only way out of this thing. David, like a lot of general managers, this is cyclical. You have some years where everything you do works perfectly. And then you go through times, much like John Robinson did with the Titans, where virtually nothing goes right. And I think David has been in one of those positions here in the last couple of years. And, the franchise has been hurt because of it. They've got some players right now that they need to get rid of, Matt Duchene being at the top of the list. And Watson, unless they're prepared to eat some of Duchene's salary, I don't think they can move him.
No, I don't either. I promise you they've tried. I promise you they've stuck him out there to different people to see what the reaction would be. A lot of money, George. A lot of money. And then you look at the productivity, and everybody is trading right now for the run for the playoffs, right? And for the Stanley Cup. And the money don't reach the productivity. They're not going to be able to trade him. That's just the way it is.
But this is also the time to do the trading because
you
can oftentimes fleece. I think Tampa got fleeced in the Tanner Jeannot deal, but they decided he's a piece they need to win a Stanley Cup. So they, in my opinion, overpaid for him.
No, they're trying to make their run again, and that's what they thought. They've dealt more this year already, George, than I think they've dealt in the last 3 or 4 I've been associated with you with them. So I bet you it's not over yet.
No, I'm hoping it isn't. I'm hoping that they really clean house in this. Now, what you would love is a scenario where while you're doing this team catches fire. They're 6 points out of the 8th and final playoff spot. The truth of it is more of the last 2 wins may well be San Jose and Arizona stink.
Yeah.
That's something you got to be honest about.
Yep.
Pittsburgh comes in here tomorrow night. Sure, it'd be great if they went on a 10-game winning streak and all of a sudden, out of nowhere they caught lightning. Hope they do. Don't honestly think it's going to happen.
Well, and you got to think, was this move a little bit strategic with the timing of it? Maybe earlier than they might have wanted to, because maybe they go on a run, like you said, George. Maybe the locker room changes or shifts a little bit. You got to wonder that. But the Preds are in a spot where it's in front of them. I mean, they can go on that streak and they still can get in, but you got to start winning. And I'm sure we'll get to that with Gee a little bit later. George, let's go to the NFL. The Chicago Bears have been approached by multiple teams about trading the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and they are reportedly leaning toward moving the pick. And according to Adam Schefter, anywhere from 8 to 12 teams could be looking to make a switch at quarterback. So who's going to get that pick?
I don't know, but Watson, if I'm the Bears, this is exactly what I do.
I 100% agree. I all along said, why in the world would you think about trading your guy? Use that first pick and you get some stuff out of that, because the first pick's going to be a quarterback. So I've thought all along this was the right move for them. And honestly, I think it's a no-brainer.
if they are sold on Justin Fields.
Yeah, and I think they are. I do. I think they win with him. I think they got to figure him out a little more and use him better. But it's what I would do. I think he's going to be a good player. And I know you don't get that first pick very often, but there's also not that, quote, just not miss guy out there. We kind of talked about that last week a little bit. The top two performers are physically not exactly what you'd want. The two guys that got all the twos of throwing and physical and tall didn't perform great this year. So the top four dudes, not one of them to me is a check mark, not just a no miss guy. So I'm not sure if I was the Bears that I would have put it on one of those four guys.
Well, speaking of those guys, Watson, the combine is this weekend, of course, and Bryce Young will not throw at the combine. He's going to wait for Alabama's pro day on March 23rd. And although he won't throw, he's going to go through medicals and measurements, so he will be there. Anthony Richardson will also undergo testing and measurements and drills and everything like that. But C.J. Stroud, Levis, and Richardson will all throw while Bryce Young will not. So, put whatever stock into that you want. I mean, he's throwing at the pro day, so I'm sure that's something scouts will be watching.
Yeah, Billy, that kind of been a back and forth thing every year, so I don't put much into it, whether you throw at that or not, or if you do throw at it.
And you know what? I've thought about, now that you say that, I've thought about with the pro day being after the combine for all these schools, why not wait a little bit, maybe get a little bit bigger, maybe, and throw at your pro day and say, hey, this is the day, this is my day, I'm throwing, instead of throwing at both. Maybe you get a benefit if you do throw at both, though.
I've not had a bunch of, I've never had a first round quarterback, but anytime I've had a bunch of quarterbacks throw for pro day, bunch, and they've always asked me, and I've always said, they say combine or pro day or both. I say pro day because you get to throw to your guys. You've timed up with these guys for a year, 2 years, and you go to the combine and you're throwing to guys you've never thrown to before. And I'd personally just rather, and it's all about you at your pro day. At the combine, there's a bunch of you there. I would just feel more comfortable throwing at the pro day. So I always told my guys, if you're asking, I'd say throw at the pro day. If you want to add the combine to throw, you do, but make sure your big one is the pro day.
Go back, if you will, Billy. Put that thing back up there. I would think for Will Levis that it's really important for him to throw at the combine because, Watson, there's a lot of questions right now on him and what level of good he really is.
Yeah, no, and it's legit. I mean, he was inconsistent, George. Some say, well, he's hurt. Some say, well, he didn't have great players around him. Some say, well, the system wasn't great. And all I know is he did not perform up to a first-round standard. And so he's got a lot to prove this spring, in my opinion. And so if I'm him, I would throw. I'd throw at every opportunity I got to throw.
And Anthony Richardson, man, I am missing something somewhere. And I may eat my words on this. How he's getting lumped with the other three, I'm like, are you kidding?
He's tall, he's
measurable,
fast, and he's got a strong arm. Again, he did not perform up to the standards. What's the difference in him and Levis? Neither one of those two, to me, performed up to the standards, but they sure looked like the new prototypical quarterback. Tall, athletic, strong arms, physical kids and everything they do. I mean, they looked the part. That's why I say it's a weird year. Two of them looked the part that didn't play great. Two of them don't look the part, but yet played great. So here we go. Let's see how it falls.
Well, let's move on, George, to Max Scherzer's comments about the new MLB rules. Obviously, the Mets ace, he described the new rules as a cat and mouse game. He feels the pitcher has finally gained control. He said, really, the power is within the pitcher now. I can totally dictate the pace. The rule change of the hitter having only one timeout changes the complete dynamic of the hitter and pitcher dynamic. I love it.
Yeah, we got to wait and see how all this really plays out. If baseball can trim 20 to 30 minutes a game out of all this, then I'm for it.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be some level of shortening. There just does.
I think it's hurting baseball, George. I think
it is
baseball
too.
And I don't think they're trying to do this to give anybody an advantage. All they're trying to do is find every way they can to shorten these games. That's all they're doing.
Did you see how the Braves game ended the other day, George?
Yeah. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, it's February baseball. Who gives a damn?
Just wait till it happens a few months from now.
That's a different story. That's a different story.
Are you watching it? Do you have the ways of watching any spring ball, George?
Well, you know what we're watching right now, the Cardinals and the Mets. It's on ESPN.
Does any of this come up when you're watching it that looks weird to you, or?
Not yet, but I mean, I've seen 5 minutes.
Oh,
so I don't really know.
This first you've seen of any.
Yeah.
The clock, it's like a basketball shot clock right behind home plate on the fence. I don't know if you've seen it, Watson, but it's definitely a different look.
Saw a highlight of one, yeah. Weird.
It's weird. But
and how long's he got between pitches? What is the count?
Is it 15? I think it's 15 seconds.
George, do you know?
Don't know, but I'll say this. Kenley Jansen's going to have some issues.
Oh, there's gonna be a few pitchers who are going to have some issues with this.
Yeah,
and batters for that matter. So they're figuring it out in spring training. Last piece here: Milwaukee Bucks owner Mark Lassery has reached an agreement to sell his portion of the Bucks to Jimmy and Dee Haslam at a $3.5 billion valuation.
Ooh, hello.
They needed that money.
That's a bunch.
Milwaukee Bucks.
I remember when the Clippers got sold, Billy, for about $2 billion, and everybody thought that was
a big deal,
man. Either way, I wasn't involved. I was not a candidate.
They didn't call.
Hey, I'll tell you this later on.
Without laughing, ask you. They didn't call you to get involved.
No. When we do studs and duds later, I've got Daniel Snyder in here because apparently he has banned the guy who owns the Washington Post, Bezos, who's trying to buy the team. He has banned him and said he's permanently ineligible. So I put Daniel Snyder in the list of duds.
Oh, good gracious.
So let me tell people a little bit of what we're doing today. OVC Commissioner Beth DeBauche will join us by phone in just a few moments, and we'll get into their tournament, which begins both with the men and the women on Wednesday, concludes on Saturday. At stake is the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament, and I don't think anybody thinks they're getting anything more than the automatic. So all of these games have got a lot of meaning. Then we will do studs and duds. I know you all breathlessly await that. And then Mark McGee will join us to talk about the transition from David Poile to Barry Trotz as Predators GM. And then we're likely to talk about Alabama, an athletic department with 14 million employees, but not a one of them could walk into the AD before Saturday and say, by the way, they might not ought to do what they've been doing in the introductions. Really? Not one person had noticed that? What in the world? We're back after this.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
We are excited to announce that the Music City Saints baseball program will host a spring golf scramble for their Baseball with Buds scholarship program. This program is in memory of a program supporter who passed away last summer. The scholarship program ensures every kid with the ability and drive for the game of baseball gets caught up due to the cost of competitive summer baseball. Tee-off is at 8 a.m. on Saturday, March the 18th at Ted Rhodes Golf Course in Nashville. The scramble will include 18 holes of golf with a cart provided and unlimited food and drink. Registration for each four-person team is $400. That includes drinks during the event. They will also be providing lunch for each team. They're limited to 25 teams, so sign up soon. If you can't field a full team, individual registration works also. Finally, if you're unable to take part in the golf scramble on Saturday, March the 18th, but you'd like to support the Music City Saints, you can help their program with a one-time donation. If you have or know of any businesses that would like to become sponsors of Music City Saints baseball, feel free to contact Shan with any questions or to register. The phone number is area code 270-300-4155, or you can go to musiccitybaseball24@gmail.com. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Well, we're getting close to that time. Tournament basketball is a great thing in March, and some of it kicks off this week. The OVC, for instance, has their tournaments in Evansville at the Ford Center. And let me say up front, this is one of a bunch of things that I've gotten wrong over the years. When the OVC made the decision to move to Evansville, I wasn't all that wild about it, Watson, until Ja Morant's Murray State team played Belmont in the finals, and they filled every last of those 11,000 plus seats. I had never seen that before.
No, and that's really what you're looking for as a commissioner, as a conference. You want the excitement in the arena, and it has worked. It was Belmont and Murray are the two in those days that were the drawers, George, and we bring it to Nashville, and for some reason, when it was closer to Murray than it was to Belmont, the Belmont people still came, and it filled it up. So it was a good move in that way for sure.
With that in mind, OVC Commissioner Beth DeBauche is on the line with us from Evansville. Beth, thank you for taking the time to come on.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I owe you a public apology. I owed you a phone call on something, and I was remiss. So please know I apologize for that. But
no, don't worry about it.
And I appreciate hearing your conversation. You'll recall, gosh, it's been 7 years ago now when we had much of the debate within the league as to where to bring the tournament. And the past 6 years in Evansville have been really good for this conference and for OVC basketball. So it's ended up being a very good home for us.
Beth, with both Murray and Belmont leaving, you've added some new teams. Talk to me about how each one of them have sort of, developed into the league and what that's been like.
So we've added 3 schools, as you know, George. We've added Little Rock. We've added Lindenwood University, which is located in St. Charles, Missouri. And then we've added the University of Southern Indiana, which is actually located in Evansville. And to your question, all 3 have really been a nice addition to the OVC. They fit right in, right from the very beginning. Culturally, they've brought a great spirit. They're really happy to be part of this league, and they've had a level of success. In the case of Little Rock, I know too well as a Notre Dame grad that they've had a rich basketball history for a long time. Their women's program actually won our regular season championship in basketball. So, excited to see what they have to play. They're really a defensive-minded team, and they bring a lot to the table. In the case of Southern Indiana and Lindenwood, they're both Division II programs that are transitioning to Division I. And I've been so impressed. There's such a commitment that you need to make that transition from Division II to Division I. It's not only a cultural shift at an institution, but it's a financial commitment. And both schools have really embraced what this transition means. It's a 4-year wait before these student athletes will be eligible to actually compete in NCAA championships. So you don't make the decision to transition unless you're really willing to commit. And both schools have, and I'm really delighted for them. Both schools will be present in the tournament. Southern Indiana on the men's side, and Lindenwood on the men's side as well. So that's really fun, and it's just excited to see what they can do. So all 10 of the OVC schools are going to be represented in the tournament this year, which is nice too.
Talk to me about and I think I know the rule, but I'm going to let you explain it because I'd screw it up. If one of those schools wins it this year, wins the OVC postseason tournament, then how does it revert to NCAA bid?
Right. No, and I appreciate the question. So the transitioning schools are not eligible to represent the conference in the tournament, but it's left to each conference then to determine how it wants to manage its process as to who the representative will be. So in our case, it will be the team in the tournament. If they would win, either one of those schools would win, it would be the next in line at the tournament to then go ahead and represent the league. So this, for those student athletes and coaches, this participation in the OVC tournament is their Super Bowl, if you will, this week. So we want to make sure that we present for all our student athletes a really good environment that the Ford Center can absolutely do a terrific job with.
Beth, don't you think that one of the selling points you've got that a lot of the big conferences don't is that there's no doubt that every game matters, because this year it's going to be a one-bid league, which means whoever wins, that's how it's going to play out, which means every game has the ultimate importance.
No, I agree with you, George. I've been blessed to be in this role for almost 14 years now. And we've said before how important each one of these games ends up being. I've never seen a season, though, like this one, where and it sounds cliche, but it is not. On any given afternoon or evening, we can see a team go ahead and get a win, regardless of what the record ends up being. So this year in particular, there's going to be high drama going into this tournament when we crown champs on both the men's and women's side. We're the first conference, I believe, this year to be able to punch our ticket. And so that's exciting as well. So gosh, if you love college sports, I can't think of anything better.
Semifinals and finals, by the way, on the ESPN family of networks. The final in prime time on Saturday night on the men's side. Watson, say hello to Commissioner Beth DeBauche.
Miss Beth, how are you?
It's nice to hear your voice, Coach Brown, and certainly I know you know the league well, but it's always a pleasure to have this opportunity to spend some time with you, and I hope you are well.
Well, I miss all you guys, and congratulations to you, because this has not been easy, Beth. I've watched it all the way through, and when you lose Murray State, Belmont, Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, all that you that left, and that's not a knock at you or the OVC, because this is happening all over the country. And but to put together and have it go smooth this year after all of this transition in all your sports, the two that are the most visible, of course, are football and basketball, both men and women. But it's really been a good transition, and honestly, I don't think you could have asked for it to go much better through the football season and now through basketball going into your tournament. I know how tough this was. I was part of one of these as an AD at UAB when we lost quite a few folks, TCU, Louisville. I can't name them all. And I know how tough this is. And in meetings on who you bring in and trying to get everybody on board, and then the transition part. So congratulations, Beth. I don't think you could have asked for it to go much better.
You're kind, Watson, to say that. I have, again, worked in intercollegiate athletics for most of my career, so I've seen this from a distance when there's been transition. I had not been close to it before, and it is unlike anything I absolutely imagine, but I am so pleased with the schools that we've been able to add. And I need to really give a shout out to the OVC institutions that have been part of this league for a very long time. They remain loyal, true, had a clear vision of what we want to be moving forward. And so that made the growth so much easier to know that you have loyal schools with you that really are committed to this conference. So through the process, and this is our 75th anniversary, I think it just reiterated to folks how much the OVC means to them. Now we'll look to get bigger if it makes sense, but what had always made the OVC strong over all these years is a group of schools, as you well know, that had a lot in common and had a geographic alignment. So those issues are still really important to us as we look to the future. It is a wild time out there for Division I. And while we had that experience, a year and a half ago now, others have gone through it. And I hope that when the South settles, that schools really are aligned, that belong together, and that we can find ways amongst the conferences to really cooperate more readily, because efficiency is going to be very important for Division I athletics to really sustain at all levels. We're going to have to share opportunities and really closely align to be able to compete. And we've even started some of that in football already, working with the Big South Conference to make sure we have great opportunities for our student athletes to compete.
Yeah. Do you, and this, I'll be general in the question because I'm sure you can be general in the answer, but philosophically, are you where you want to be? Is there talk of still expanding, especially on the football end? Beth, talk a little bit about your philosophical thoughts within the OVC, especially football, where the numbers aren't as high.
Right. So as you know, we've partnered with the Big South Conference to play as one conference. So we have currently 10 football playing member institutions. Long term, though, and we just had a board of presidents meeting and an ADs meeting, we'd like to get bigger as a conference if it makes sense for the league. Again, the similarity of schools being important, the geography being important. I think in the new day of Division I, it may make sense to get bigger, to actually get smaller. If you can become a big enough conference at this level and then really create travel patterns that make sense, you can really create some more efficiencies in what you're doing. And ultimately, that would be the goal. There is no strict timeline to say we have to get it done by X date, but we are looking to make what we think is really a good league now even better with the addition of more members moving forward over the next 2 to 3, 4 years, I would say.
Beth, one more thing on
Sure.
the league itself. The new teams that have come in, are in your minds, are they really into it, excited, willing to do the things they have to do to compete within the OVC? Do you feel really good about that?
I feel great about the schools. They really come with a level of enthusiasm about being here and a commitment to do what needs to be done. What's been interesting, and you'll appreciate this having sat in AD's meetings over the years, there is a renewed sense of just examining what we do, why we do it, and if we're doing it the best way possible. Bringing in new blood, they ask legitimate questions, and it forces us all to think through what we've done. In some instances, we love the patterns and practices that are established, and in other ways, they've challenged us to grow. So that energy is really good in the room right now, and the fact that they're so excited to be there, it's contagious, and I hope that we see some of that byproduct in Evansville during the tournament.
Yeah. What is the future, Beth, tournament-wise? Are you keeping it in Evansville? What's down the road?
It's the sense of the group, and we talked about it with the ADs and the president, so I don't think I'm talking out of school, that we appreciate. We have a good partnership in Evansville. We have a great deal of support in Evansville. So I anticipate an extension of some sort coming up here if we can get the details to work out. Again, not that we won't move the tournament at some point in time. We need to be, and we try to do this with all our championships, be attentive to the geography and the footprint of the entire conference. But when you have a venue as good as the Ford Center and the local level of support, we just know that we're really fortunate. And again, I heard the conversation in the beginning when I got on. Nashville had been such a good home to us over the years, and we really loved being here. So, at some point in time, it may be an appropriate venue to come back, but right now, Evansville just seems to be the right fit for this league.
George, last thing I have, Beth, looks to me, when I was in the OVC with you in the basketball tournament, it seemed like it was always, there's a couple of teams here, and then it was kind of everybody else fighting to see if they can get there. I really think this year, as I've watched OVC men and women's basketball, I think there's 4 or 5 different teams on both the women's side and the men's side that could win this thing. So this could make it a different kind of tournament than you've had in recent years.
No, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of stress for some teams as well. But you're right. It should be just a wide open competition. Our regular season champ on the women's side, as I said, was Little Rock. And our men's champ was Morehead State, who's had a pretty nice run of it the past few years. But for, local interest, Tennessee Tech ends up being on the men's side, the number 2 seed, and on the women's side, the number 3 seed. And Tennessee State also is in the tournament, the 4th seed on the men's side and the 7th seed on the women's side. So again, this could be anybody's week if they have a good run. So it's going to be fun coming down the stretch.
Hey, Beth, let me ask this. The schools do a really good job of making sure their fans know exactly how to get tickets. But if somebody's watching this, maybe they don't have a dog in the hunt, but they like tournament basketball, just simply show up at the arena? How do they do it?
well, you can show up at the arena, but maybe the best bet is to go to the OVC's webpage at ovcsports.com /backslash Evansville and or backslash, if you will, and all the information about tickets is there as well. So an easy way to find the times for the games and the location. And as you know, George, once you get to Evansville, if somebody try to make the trip up there, parking's easy. It's a really convenient location for fans to get into and get good access to being able to watch some great basketball.
It sure is. You're exactly right about that. Hey, who's Notre Dame going to hire to replace Bray?
Gosh, I wish I know. So when you hear, please let me know. He's done a nice job up there over the years, all these and a good man. I'm sorry to see you leave that role. But, it'll be fun to watch, but just like our basketball tournament. So I hope both of you can make a trip up if schedules allow. We'd love to see you there.
Beth, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on with us.
Always a pleasure and always fun to talk to both of you.
That's OVC Commissioner Beth DeBauche joining us on the show. We'll go to the break and then Studs and Duds, followed by Mark McGee talking about the hiring of Barry Trotz as the new Predators general manager. We got a lot more coming, so stick around. I know it's getting colder. You're not thinking about golf. However, if you're planning an event for next year, let me suggest golf through Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. It's perfect for hosting a corporate or a charitable outing. They've got everything in place to make your event a rousing success. To get more info, call 615-847-5074 or go online to riversidegolflinks.com.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd. The goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Don't miss a minute of the action this season. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets to get your seats today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. And we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Jody Jones has as nice a dental facility as you'll find anywhere. Let's go in and take a look. Are you in the market for a new dentist? Maybe you're new to Nashville? Well, the place to go is Jody Jones Dentistry at 55 Music Square East. And their new facility is absolutely state-of-the-art. Jody mixes quality with comfort for the perfect dental experience. He's trusted for his creative design and committed to both the function and aesthetics of your smile. Jody is simply the total package. Don't wait. Make an appointment now at 615-259-5100. Okay, it is time for Studs and Duds. Watson, you ready?
Ready to go, bud.
Okay. I put Kentucky as my first stud. They ripped Auburn. They're starting to get on a roll, apparently.
Watch out. I'm telling you, they're starting to show that there's a more confident look in those kids here in the last few weeks, and if they start shooting it better, they've got all the other pieces. And Sheway is also playing good too, George. He's playing really good basketball right now.
Here's one I did not see coming. If you had told me going into the weekend, hey, Indiana will go to Purdue and dominate because at one point when I turned the game on, and let me say this, I was involved this weekend in a deal in Manchester, Tennessee. So I didn't see as many games as I normally do. Watson, I emceed a dinner that former Brave Dale Murphy was the speaker at.
Oh, my gracious. I'm sure that you paid them to get to do that.
I probably did.
Yeah.
Anyway, driving back, Mark McGee and I were flipping around at different games, and Indiana at one point was up 15 on Purdue. And I'm like, where's that coming from?
I've liked Indiana all year. I think they're one of the ones that are very capable of Sweet 16 in it. I like this team. They're inside out and they can run the floor. First time I've said this about Indiana in a while. I like watching this team play.
Meanwhile, Purdue has lost 5 of their last 7 and doesn't look like a 1 seed anymore.
They're not a 1 seed, are they?
No, they shouldn't be.
Not at the moment. Better go back inside to the big boy.
Yeah, they don't do that enough. I was watching the end of that game, and there were like 3 out of the last 5 or 6 possessions. He didn't even get a touch.
Yeah. Well, that's got to change. Now, Watson, does that name at the bottom of the screen mean anything to you? Can you see it?
Desmond Cambridge Jr.?
Does that mean anything to you?
Nope.
Okay. This is the kid at Arizona State that hit the 70-footer to beat Arizona. Do you know the backstory?
No.
He went to Innsworth.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd he end up all the way out there?
I don't know.
He transferred his senior year. He played his senior year at a prep school, and then he went to Nevada and then transferred to Arizona State.
Okay.
And he's got a few sisters that are really good players, a couple brothers. I mean, the Cambridge family, that's a basketball dynasty family right there. I know he's got a couple other brothers.
I bet none of the others have hit a 70-footer.
No, I could not believe that shot went in.
Well, first of all, the fact that Arizona State hung with Arizona in Tucson on Arizona's home court is a big surprise. And then, of course, they get this miracle heave, and it went.
There were a few buzzer beaters.
There were a bunch of them.
Florida State.
Yeah.
Gets their 9th win of the season at Miami.
Hold on. We're going to get to that in a minute. Don't be giving it away. Anyway, congratulations. So I put Gonzaga in there, which is interesting because I've always thought Gonzaga is a fraud nationally. Watson, you remember the year everybody was, they're going to win it all. And what did I keep saying?
How do I forget? I listened to it all year long. And then you were right. So, I mean, what the heck? Yeah. I had to put up with it. Yeah, I've heard it.
Brilliance. So, this victory, and I don't have the exact number, but this victory gave them a share of whatever they call that conference. Is it the West Coast Conference?
West Coast.
Yeah. Where a tough road trip is going to play the
San Francisco,
San Diego Toreros. So this win gave them a tie with St. Mary's. So they're co-champions, and it's something like 20 years in a row that they have either won or shared their conference title. That's why I put them in there.
And St. Mary's is pretty good. St. Mary's is pretty good. So that's a good win. That is a good win. So they were at home, though, right? That was a home game for Gonzaga.
They're going to get bounced early.
Still a fraud, aren't they, bud?
I think Sweet 16 would be a commendable goal for this particular Gonzaga. I just don't think they're all that good.
No. I'm with you on this one.
You want the duds?
Yep.
Okay. Dud time. Michigan State. Punch it up there.
I don't have the duds.
Don't have the duds. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, I can do it without it. Watson, they had a 10-point lead with 40 seconds to play in regulation.
39 to be exact.
God, I mean,
I don't believe I've ever heard of that. I remember North Carolina winning one down 10 with something like that. That's the last and that's many years back in the Dean Smith time.
Was there also not a decision by Izzo not to foul on a 3-pointer right at the end that probably would have sealed it?
I only saw the highlights of it, so I can't tell you exactly what went down, but I mean, Iowa could not miss. And Michigan State turning it over, George. They kept turning it over, which is not an Izzo. His teams are usually very disciplined and they make you beat them, but they just flat. I mean, Iowa could not miss a shot. Unbelievable. Great comeback.
I put the University of Miami on the dud list. They've had a really good year. They are anything but a dud. But they blew a 25-point lead at home to Florida State, who is having a really down year. And I'm like, are you kidding? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, I saw that too. I couldn't believe it because Miami's been good this year.
Yeah.
And I think they are pretty good and very athletic, very defensive oriented, fun to watch play up and down the floor. I don't know.
They apparently took a big old siesta.
I guess 25 points.
That's a lot. Okay, I put Daniel Snyder in there just on general purposes. And let me throw the wife in as well while we're at it. Make it a family affair. So supposedly he's looking to sell the team. I don't particularly believe that. I think he will sell that team kicking and screaming. But he doesn't like the Washington Post, which has been all over him. Their owner is this guy Bezos, who apparently came out recently and said he'd like to buy the Commanders, and Snyder basically barred him from the process.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of the pot calling the kettle black for sure. I mean, he's been barred from so many things, and now he's barring people. So go figure. I don't know.
The last one is a mystery to me. I get home yesterday from church, and I watched the end of Illinois, just an absolute dud at Ohio State. I can't figure Illinois out.
Nope. I can't, and Ohio State's bad, so you can figure them out.
This win got them to 12-17.
Jeez,
Ohio State should never be that.
Ohio State, 12-17.
12-17.
Go figure.
And Northwestern is 21-8.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy.
There's some anarchy going on.
Yeah.
Let me throw one shout out now.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't ever do it, but I watched yesterday the girls' basketball game between number 2 Indiana and number 6 Iowa.
I have heard all about it. I didn't see it.
I'm telling you, I just thumbing through. I was watching golf, and I'm thumbing through, and like you, got home from church and said, what am I going to watch here? So the place is packed. You can't, it is loud in there. It's unbelievable. I said, well, I'll watch a little of this. Well, I didn't turn it off. I watched probably the last 12, 13 minutes of the game. And this girl who's Caitlin's, I can't remember her name right now. It's awful that I can't. Caitlin Clark. She already had 32 or 31 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds. She's a great player and a guard, George. And they triple screened her around. She shoots this off-balance shot coming off the screen, 1.9. They had to score. And they had it at half court because the girls' game, you can call a timeout and get it at half court. I wish the men would go to that like the NBA, to be very honest. But anyway, and that dadgum thing went down. And just unbelievable. Women's basketball is getting there when you've got that kind of atmosphere. It's 2 Big Ten teams playing 2 and 6, and both teams made plays all the way through. It wasn't a gimme in some way, but it was really fun to watch. I'm telling you, both of those teams are very good girls basketball teams.
There's some really high level basketball being played at the women's side of things.
South
this year.
Carolina right now.
South Carolina is 29-0.
Have you guys watched them any just for 2 or 3 minutes here and there?
I watched
They're really
yesterday.
good.
They're really good.
Yeah,
They're really good.
And they've got
there's some good. There's the women's basketball tournament. I've always been around because my wife was a great player and my daughter was a really good college player, and so I've watched it. But Billy, this year I've seen more really good play. They're getting more athletic every year, and that shot would be right there with any men's shot throughout the whole season. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that South Carolina atmosphere was legit too. I mean, they're playing Sandstorm.
They're
before
selling
the
them out.
game,
Of course, Tennessee and Connecticut were the two forever, and now there's a bunch of them starting to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hey,
Yeah.
Billy, we have late news, Commander news.
They have cut Carson Wentz.
Yes. How
Who
about
took
that?
him? They let him go, or somebody take him?
No, they let him go.
They cut him.
That don't surprise me. Does it you all?
No,
No.
but I didn't think here they would. I mean, I don't know if that's a vote of confidence at Taylor Heineke. I don't know if it's simply more problems. Wentz doesn't appear to be great in a locker room.
No. And am I wrong? Didn't the Saints let Winston go today, or have they not yet?
I didn't catch
Didn't
that.
see that.
Maybe I've just been told that's fixing to go down. I
Okay.
don't know.
You know where I think Wentz is going to go?
Where?
The Brahmas. I think he's headed to the XFL.
No.
You
Do
think-
you really? Are you being facetious or are you serious?
I mean, I don't know that a team. I mean, obviously he'd be a good backup, but if you're Wentz,
Oh, he'll be taken as a backup.
did you guys see AJ McCarron? He was interviewed after an XFL game, and he said he had chances to be a backup in the NFL, but he wants to play, and he said he wants his son to see him playing actually on the field. So I don't know. Maybe Wentz starts to think about that. You know, I just want to play.
You know, that'd be a good discussion someday. I know we're going to have to go, but wouldn't that be a good discussion? Say these backups are just not playing like AJ. Go in there for a spring and give it your best shot, and you might shoot yourself back up the ladder and get another shot somewhere instead of just being considered a guy on the bench over here that we keep on for whatever. I don't know. It's going to get interesting. And, of course, you got 2 leagues down the spring, so that's a lot of quarterbacks, guys. A lot of quarterbacks.
Most of whom can't play.
Most of whom struggle.
We'll go to the break. Stat of the day, and then Mark McGee in the On Deck Circle. Please stick around.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you. Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised. And of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back in. Final segment of this first hour. Couple minutes past the hour. We're talking Preds with Mark McGee coming up. But first stat of the day, it's brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville, Tennessee, located at 204 East Depot Street. They're open Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5 and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. All right, let's check out stat of the day. And we are headed to the college basketball game. Kentucky has won the SEC men's basketball tournament 32 times.
Good Lord.
In program history. What school has the second most SEC tournament championships?
Watson, to me, it's down to two schools. It's either Arkansas or Alabama. And
Arkansas been in long enough to where they would be that?
Probably not. Here's where I'm leaning on Bama. If you remember in the 80s and then in the early 90s, Wimp won a bunch of them in a row. Remember?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Wimp got hot, real hot. You might be right. LSU would be one I'd throw in there.
But I can't think of LSU winning any of them.
May not have.
Now, they may have.
Back times, but I know we knocked Shaq out once at Vanderbilt. I remember that.
Say that again?
We knocked Shaq out at Vanderbilt one year. I remember. Knocked him out in the semis, I think it was. At Vanderbilt, I'm talking about. You might be right.
I think it's
Bama. I
Bama.
don't know if Arkansas has been around long enough to be there.
Yeah.
Because there's 32 times, there's still a lot more tournaments somebody else is winning when Kentucky wasn't winning other than the 32.
If I'm right, I wonder who's third. Let's punch it up and see where we go.
Good pick. Yeah, most of those are Wimp right in there.
Is Arkansas third?
Not sure, George.
Okay.
Well, look it up real quick, Billy, if you can.
Let's see. Most SEC championships.
I'm anxious to hear who it is.
It could be Tennessee.
Yeah.
Andy, I think, has won 2.
No, it's
back
not.
in 51, and then Tennessee's got 5. Are they third? Tennessee's third with 5.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Tennessee. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get Mark McGee in here and talk about what has gone on in the last 24 hours. Gee, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. And if
Good.
something
I've done
happens
this on the phone before, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Would it be your sense that the Predators did not want to announce this yesterday?
I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know. I think they would rather wait until the end of the season to do it, probably. But I think it was getting out. Even you were talking about some people you knew who were talking about Barry Trotz being around the arenas and hiding out the suites and meeting with Hines at the Hilton next door. So I think people realized. I think they realized it was getting out there. So let's go ahead and try to beat the social media and that type of thing to the punch. But I think they probably would have rather waited until after the season was over to do this.
Let's start with David Poile. Mark, I had come to the conclusion over the last 2 to 3 years of his, which were not very good in the GM role and had really gotten this franchise in a lot of trouble, that I didn't see any other way around this even though this is probably not the way management wanted to kind of have to push.
Well, no, they were saying at the press conference that this is something they've been talking about for 3 or 4 years with David. David's been talking about it with them as well, and that after the end of the season last year, he pretty much told the ownership group that this was going to be his last year. That maybe that's coach speak type for the media or whatever, but that's what they said today.
And the truth of it is, he's got a weird resume in that he's never won a Stanley Cup title, but everything else about him screams Hall of Fame.
Oh, he's the winningest coach ever. I mean, winningest GM ever at the NHL. So, I mean, that puts him right there to one extent with all the franchises he's been with. And, he'll join his dad in the Hall of Fame. His dad, Bud Poile, who was familiar to the National Hockey fans as the commissioner of the Central Hockey League when we had the AAA team. He'll join his dad in the Hall of Fame, I would think, pretty soon.
I know that one of the considerations was to allow him to direct the NHL draft that's coming here. And that's sort of, I guess, a parting gift, if you will.
Yeah, I think so. He loves draft day. He lives for draft day. So it's kind of nice to let him have one more draft. But I also understand for the press conference that he and Barry Trotz have talked every day for the last month, and that Trotz has had some input into what possible trade situations and that type of thing. I'm sure he's got some input into the draft situation as well. So I would think that even though David will be overseeing it, I'm sure Barry's going to be pretty close to him from that standpoint. I felt like this was watching the conference. I felt like it was, you have to go a long way to find a change of power like this that was more congenial than this one was. I mean, everybody loves David Poile and what he did. He was the only general manager in the history of the franchise, and Barry was hugely popular. He's the winningest coach ever in the history of the team, and he's got a couple of Stanley Cup rings. And so I mean, so having him in this role, Barry, when he left the Islanders, said that he probably didn't really want to coach again, but he wouldn't mind thinking about being a general manager. So when he came to Nashville to live again, I think most of us felt like, maybe that's what he's waiting on, because David's 73, and so I felt what they said today. It looked like it was something they talked about last year at the end of the season, and he was ready to do this. And if he was ready to retire, that's great. If that was great for him, but I don't know that David Poile, somebody would ever really probably want to retire.
Okay, you and I both know Barry Trotz very well. There's not a better human being in the world than this guy.
He is
tremendous. Do you think he will be a good general manager?
I think yeah, that's a good question, George. I think that I was thinking about that today. I was thinking that, he's been around the minors he was a minor league coach. He was right there in the middle of the development with the Predators when they first got started. So he knows how to evaluate talent. And that's 90% of being general manager, is how to evaluate talent and how to use it. As a coach, he knows how to use talent. And his real niche is dealing with younger players. And I think he'll be able to really make an impression as far as maybe picking up some of these younger players, and maybe even being a hands-on general manager to some extent. If he and John Hines are as close as we all think they are, Hines might let him be a little more hands-on and out there helping to develop some of these young guys. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think his experience and background, that he'll be able to make good decisions as far as player situations.
Okay, I'm having to ask some of this blind because I wasn't able to hear the press conference. I think both of us sort of sense that this means that John Hines is coming back.
Sounds like it to me, yeah. And also, he's going to retain all the assistant general managers as well. That's Poile's son and Scott Nickel, and I forget the third one. But he's going to keep all of them too.
Just kind of thinking as we go along with this, are you convinced that Trotz, the coach, is done?
Yeah, I am. I think he could have. I'm sure a lot of people knocked on his door to be a coach again. I just don't. He said from the beginning he just didn't know whether he wanted to coach anymore. General manager, much more power situation from a coaching standpoint. But I think he was thinking about this. I don't know whether he was thinking about being in Nashville, but maybe he was, because like I said, they said in the conference that this has been something that David had been discussing with the ownership for 3 or 4 years, that as far as him leaving, they wanted him to really make sure that he had the organization, especially the player development and the player scouting situation, all that, the way he wanted it before he left. And they feel like that's where it needs to be. And so I think that, and then they said after last year, after the season was over, he pretty much told them, this is it for me, regardless of what happens. So if that all is true, then this is, it'll be interesting. It was an interesting way to end it all.
Watson, here's all you would need to know about Barry Trotz and what level of human being he is. When he ended his tenure as the Preds coach, I was kind of sniping away on the air at how it had happened. And Barry came in, I want to say 2 days after. He came in the studio for an hour. And at the end of the conversation, by the way, also in that conversation, I said, do you remember the first time we met? And he said, oh, yeah. He said, we had met out at Titans training camp. And he said, you took one look at me and said, who the hell are you? And he said, I took one look at you and said, who the hell are you? But anyway, at the end of this conversation, 2 days after he's no longer the Preds coach, he says to me, he says, he said, I know what you've been saying on the air and I want it to stop. And I said, I don't like the way it was done, blah, blah. And he looks at me, he goes, if I'm okay with it, you need to be okay with it. That's all you need to know about Barry Trotz.
Yeah.
Wonderful man. No offense, Watson, but he's the best coach I've dealt with on any level at any time. He's the greatest coach, regardless of any sport or any level of sports that I've dealt with. I was talking to George about it the other night. We were kind of talking about this a little bit. I left him a message one time, and I was in my office, and he called me back 13 times to try to answer my questions, and no coach does that. That gives you an idea of what he's like. And when he was with the Islanders, I was up there for a game, and he asked me, he says, which station did you stop at? And I told him, he says, I got a better one. So in the middle of the night in December, he drives me to the station that he wanted me to leave from and stay with me till the train got there to make sure I got on the right train. Now, no coach does that.
Wow.
No, I don't. I can say that I've not done that. Yeah. And I can also say there's no media person that wanted to talk to me 13 times.
He called me 13 times back to return my call. He tried to return my call 13 times.
That's believe me, that's the exception, not the rule.
Oh, yeah. He is the exception.
Oh.
He is the exception.
Well, and that'll play well with the Preds, believe me, because he'll be all over town and he'll play the role. I'm really pulling for him, Guy, because I've been saying for years that we quit hiring coaches after they've been in coaching for a long time as ADs, because I thought it would be such an easy transition and talk with them. They know so much on both ends of the deal. And this is exactly what Barry is. So I'm really pulling for this to work, not just because he's a good guy, but I think knowing all the pieces of what the team needs and how they fit in the different lines and all of that being a coach, you've got that advantage over somebody that's never coached before. So I'm really pulling for him. I think he's going to be successful. How do you think, guys, both of you, from his past, will he put a team together? You've seen his teams here as a coach. Will he put a fast team together? Will he be defensive minded? How will he put a team together in your all's opinion?
I think he'll do he's looked around the league. He knows what has to be done. I think he's going to have a team with some speed and some skill. His Islanders teams were pretty quick. They had some scoring problems like the Predators do, which kind of worries me a little bit, but but he has some speed up there as well. I mean, of course, Hines has the physical philosophy situations. They may have some discussions about that, but I think Barry's going to know and does know that they've got to change the way they play. They've got to start. They've got to really become quicker, faster, and more skilled.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps the coach.
Thing is ugly goals. He says ugly goals are the way you score, and that get the puck around the net. Somebody tip it in, whatever. He doesn't like the fancy shots that much. He likes ugly goals, and I think that's something he's going to stress as well. Being aggressive, charging the net, and taking shots.
Any thoughts, George? Different?
Yeah, I'm with Guy. I think he's watched this team now enough. I think I've got enough info that he's been in that arena a lot, so he knows they're slow. He sees that. I think he's going to stress that they've got to get quicker. I'm hoping that he pushes David in these final weeks to take this trading stuff even farther. I think they've got to consider trading UC Saros because if Tanner Jeannot, who I think this year has been a little bit of a disappointment, can corral what he corralled, good Lord, what can UC Saros bring them?
I mean, I was shocked at how many people they got for him in that trade. I mean, I was like, wow, Tampa Bay has opened up the door.
Well, the other thing I'll add to Barry being the GM guys, 4 of my 6 head jobs that I had, my ADs were former coaches, 4 of the 6. And I'm telling you, that helped. I could pass things by them that they'd been through. I could even ask a question if I wanted to. All head football coaches before they were ADs, and it made a big difference. And you brought it up, Guy, that they were sitting talking, or George did, one of the two, that the coach now had been talking with Barry. And I just think that's a neat thing that can help in the long run. So we'll see. Last thing, Guy, I got here. We've already traded and let some people go, or traded for some different, spots in the draft or whatever. Are we through yet? Do you think that the quote that I saw David Poile said that hit me is what we've been talking about. He said, I've been sitting here the last 3 or 4 years and we're middle mush. That's kind of what we've been, is middle mush. What a great 2 words to where we've been, just sitting kind of in the middle of the pack. And I think that's one of the reasons he said it's just time for a change. And I appreciate that. Guy coming out and saying, here's where we are. We've been here for a while. It's time to see if somebody else can take it in a different direction.
Well, I think that that's definitely the case. I mean, he's honest about it. He knew what was going on, and but I think that Matthias Ekholm, they're still talking about him possibly going to the Oilers before long. They're still talking about that. George and I were talking today about Matt Duchene, and I think if they get rid of Duchene, it'll make a lot of people happy, both fans and players. And I think the Predators will probably have to come up with some kind of financial situation where they pay part of that $8 million salary to get somebody to take them off their hands.
Yeah. I think that's an important one if they can do it, because I think it would be addition by subtraction. When he plays hard, he's a really good player. He's got some skills. I think he's one of their best passers, but he doesn't play hard every night. And that the players see that, and they're looking at John Hines going, why aren't you forcing the issue? And Hines privately is saying, you don't think I haven't tried?
I think, and for $8 million a year, you shouldn't have off nights. Mary's going to have one occasionally, but you shouldn't have to be motivated to go on the ice and play. The $8 million salary should motivate you plenty to go out there and do your best.
Guy, appreciate it. Let's talk on Wednesday if we can, and and we'll get into where the team's going. How crazy would it be if they made a run from here and got close.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Sometimes that happens, but of course, that's usually when a coaching change is made. So I don't know. It sounds like to me this is all going on, but really, of course, officially it doesn't take Barry doesn't take his role until July 1st. So it'll be interesting to see what happens behind the scenes. I'm sure Barry's probably going to be sharing an office or in an office every day there working on things. So it'll be interesting to see how things change maybe along the way. They beat the Coyotes the other night, kind of got revenge for their loss earlier. And so maybe this starts them off on they've got an interesting March coming up. They have the Kraken twice toward the end of March, back to make up some of those games they lost. And so it'll be interesting how it all ends up. It could be an interesting month.
Guy, thank you as always.
Thank you. This phone thing worked okay. I feel better.
It worked good. Looking good. By the way, thanks for the invite on the Dale Murphy thing. That was cool.
That was a lot of fun. I was real calm about it for our local paper. It was a lot of fun to do that. So
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the break on that. And then when we come back, a subject you may be tired of, but it is far from finished. Why is Alabama's athletic department so tone deaf? Stay tuned. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
We are excited to announce that the Music City Saints baseball program will host a spring golf scramble for their Baseball with Buds scholarship program. This program is in memory of a program supporter who passed away last summer. The scholarship program ensures every kid with the ability and drive for the game of baseball gets caught up due to the cost of competitive summer baseball. Tee-off is at 8 a.m. on Saturday, March the 18th at Ted Rhodes Golf Course in Nashville. The scramble will include 18 holes of golf with a cart provided and unlimited food and drink. Registration for each 4-person team is $400. That includes drinks during the event. They will also be providing lunch for each team. They're limited to 25 teams, so sign up soon. If you can't field a full team, individual registration works also. Finally, if you're unable to take part in the golf scramble on Saturday, March the 18th, but you'd like to support the Music City Saints, you can help their program with a one-time donation. If you have or know of any businesses that would like to become sponsors of Music City Saints baseball, feel free to contact Shan with any questions or to register. The phone number is area code 270-300-4155, or you can go to musiccitybaseball24@gmail.com. So that picture is on the left, an Alabama walk-on, and I don't have his name, with Brandon Miller, and they're doing in their pregame introductions a pat down. Apparently they've been doing this all year. But Watson, I come away from this just totally amazed at how tone deaf their athletic department is. They got more employees than Carter has little pills. Just think about all the analysts alone that are in that building under Nick Saban. Some we know about, some we don't. Anyway, it's an athletic department. It's got a lot of employees. You would think that one of those would have walked into Greg Byrne, the AD, and said, hey, don't know if you know, don't know if you've noticed, but before our games, this is a deal that these two have been doing. And then he looks at the AD, whoever this person theoretically would be, and says, Greg, I don't think this would be a good look based on what's been going down the last week and a half. And Byrne, who seems pretty intelligent, probably would say, you're right, I'll get with Nate Oates. I'll explain it to him and we move on. What am I missing here?
Well, you're missing everybody else too. I mean, you're dead on. You're missing the whole basketball staff. Players on the team that would say, hey, we might not ought to do this anymore. I mean, how this could pass by everybody is beyond me. And thank goodness they've been doing it all year. If that had popped up for the first time, he's suspended on the spot. I mean, I wouldn't have let him play in that game, because that to me is on Brandon Miller, but it wasn't. So they've been doing it all year. It didn't mean anything, but George, image matters. We all know that image matters. How an assistant on the basketball team don't pick it up. The head coach doesn't pick it up. I read where Coach O says, well, I'm drawing plays. You're not drawing plays at that point.
He keeps
I'm drawing plays, so I
statements.
never see it. How do you not know what your players are doing when they're being introduced? You should know that. I mean, all of those type things the head coach should know. And if that means some assistant's telling him or whatever. So I put this even more on the basketball staff than I do the athletic department. It's on everybody, George. It's on everybody. But really, it's on the staff to me. Jeez.
And more importantly, Brandon Miller. I mean, the kid that allowed this to happen. I mean,
I don't know how he doesn't say, wow, we better not do this.
It's like, okay, I'm going to go through my pregame intro, and should I let this guy pat me down after all this has been going on? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I mean, what goes through your mind to say, this will be okay?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I put it on the players too, but I really put it, Billy, on the coaches.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, 18-year-olds, and that's about what he is, 19, something like that. Yeah, you're right. But I really put it on coaches. And for the head coach to say he doesn't know what any of his players do in an introduction way, you're kidding me. I can't believe that, George. And to come out and make the statement, well, I'm drawing plays during that time, I'm going,
I'm drawing plays during that time.
What
No,
are
you're
you doing
not.
all week getting ready for the game? I don't think you're drawing plays up before the opening kickoff. I've never done that in my life in 46 years. I've never drawn plays right before a game starts, so I don't get that.
So I realize there's debate right now about whether Alabama should be playing Brandon Miller or not. And I'll admit that on my end, I lean toward he shouldn't be playing right now. That's just me. Doesn't mean I'm right. They've got more info than I do. And I admit that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, here's what I do know. Nate Oates, who I think is a really good basketball coach, is not helping himself at all. He keeps talking, which tells me that the legal department at Alabama has not brought him into a room and said, shut the hell up, because you're hurting us. Every time you talk, it creates more doubt. What am I missing down there?
You're not missing anything with that, George. I've been talking about it since it happened. You know that. But I'm going to tell you this. If they don't get it together before they come to Nashville and then to the NC2As, because the questions are going to get tougher. They're going to get tougher as this thing goes on. And it's not going to die. It's not going to die. It's every time they go to a different city to play in that part of the tournament, George, it lights it up again. The national media really has been tougher on them than the area media has been. Would you not agree with that?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
ESPN,
I think that's to be expected.
I've seen that go both ways. I've seen the area media jump all over somebody for something like this or that, and then the national media don't even touch it. They jumped all over this one. They've jumped all over it and really on the end of what's he doing playing. ESPN has been really heavy with it. And so they better get it right. I don't still understand how many more times you got to get in a room. Can you imagine walking back in that room with the coach, the AD, the SID, the president, and say, did he really do that in pregame warmups? After all we've been through, did that happen? And then somebody says, he's been doing it all year. And then everybody goes nuts. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many more things can go down with this. And it's not helping anybody. I tell you who it's not helping at all, Brandon Miller. This kind of stuff's not helping him either. Just everybody needs to be quiet, because the more somebody opens their mouth, it gets everybody involved in it.
So are they not having the meetings internally that I think they are?
It doesn't sound like it. It doesn't look like it.
How can that be? I mean, is it, spring football's here and that's our whole
No, you know better than that.
No, I don't know. What in the world is going on down there?
Well, it started when nobody speaks but Coach Oates, and then he just butchers the whole deal. Then he comes back and says, well, I misspoke because I didn't know enough about it. I didn't learn about this till after I talked to you all. Huh? Why would you talk if you haven't till you know all the pieces? It doesn't look like they did, George. I would bet you after this incident, they have been all put in a room, said, okay, enough's enough here. We got one more week, and then we're headed into the big stuff's fixing to come up here. And with the SEC tournament and the NC2As, it's time to shut this up. And believe me, anytime I've ever been around this, AD or coach, either one, lawyers are involved in all this. They're in these meetings everywhere I've ever been. That's protocol. The lawyers are in the meetings when it's something in a legal type way. And I don't get it. I can't imagine these lawyers letting Coach Oates speak like this.
Here are a couple of things that might be worth some consideration or thought as you hear us going on and on and on about this. Number one, if you're Oates, you've got a resource in your building that is unlike anybody. Nate, meet Nick.
Here's your daddy.
Nick, here's Nate. Okay. I don't know how much they know each other, but I'll say on Nate's part, he needs to get to know Nick, because I would think Nick is a master at this.
I would say he had talked to Nick because, again, you know me with names, guys. Who was the linebacker with the Ravens that got in the trouble and came to talk to the team that Coach Oates had called and asked?
Oh.
The linebacker with the Ravens that got in the trouble in the shooting.
Oh, no.
Oh, the great player, the great linebacker with the Baltimore Ravens. Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis.
That was too easy.
Well, we all froze.
I'd gone past Ray Lewis.
I think I'm right. I think Nick brought Ray Lewis in to talk to his football team at some point. I thought he's one of the ones he brought in to talk to his players. So I'll bet you he had the number when Coach Oates said he had talked to Ray Lewis. That told me that Nick had already been involved in this in some way.
Well, and Nick has dealt with this before. I mean, we know he's dealt with guys. Should he have disciplined this player or two
he's had quite a bit
worse, and he sticks up for the fact that he gives players second chances. Now, this is a little different,
and he's got a little more cachet. He's got Belichickian, if that's a word, cachet.
Right.
But I like that.
Burn. You like that?
I like that.
That was good.
Belichickian. That's
Burn.
Way over your head.
A lot of things are, that being one of them. Byrne appeared to handle himself very well in the ESPN podcast with Reese Davis.
And that's the only two that have spoke.
Right.
That's the only two at Alabama that I've seen have said a word.
So I now have come to the conclusion that the lawyers going into Saturday had not put the clamps on Oates, which boggles my mind. I'm stunned at that. Saban's got to be in his office going, are you friggin' kidding me? That I don't know that, but I wonder. And then there is the whole basketball office. Okay. In my 20s, I got to really see up close and personal how a basketball office operates under C.M. Newton. I was allowed unbelievable access for a young broadcaster. And I have absolutely no doubt in being able to say that somebody involved in the basketball office, the 4 or 5 assistant coaches, team manager, secretary, SID for basketball, somebody should have gone to somebody and said, are you aware this goes on? And given the circumstances of the last 2 weeks, if it happens on Saturday, this will look really stupid.
Oh, and there's probably 10 to 15 more people in an office than there was when you were there in the 80s. Yeah. There's a lot more bodies around. I know there is in football. A lot
got
more
like
bodies.
15 people behind each bench now.
We built McGugan Center. Coach Kramer and I did, and moved in it my last year as the football coach. It couldn't possibly house all the number of coaches you got to have in a building now, George. I mean, we didn't build that thing thinking there's going to be another 20 people in this football facility here upstairs. So you're dead right. We've said it all along. I blame the coaches on this one. I blame the coaches, but it is absolutely time to nip it in the bud. The bad thing to me is Coach Oates says this is the last thing I'm going to say. Coach Burns said it the best. We've said our piece. We've looked into this. We know all that's gone down.
And then he got asked another one and answered.
And then here he goes again. Yeah. I mean, that to me though, George, goes to the SID. When that question's asked, some of my better SIDs would step right up and say, the man has said, and he don't put it on me to have to do that.
Right.
He steps up and says, wait a minute now. He said, that's it. We're not talking about this anymore. You got basketball questions that's asked on, but no more about this. And that's a strong SID that can do that for you.
Here is where, and I know some of you are saying, George, you have spent way too much time talking about this in recent days. I get it. But yet, if you look around, I'm not the only one. Everybody is. And here's part of why I'm going there. You watch come SEC tournament time, and certainly when they get in the NCAA tournament, there will be reporters from things like the Washington Post, the New York Times, who wouldn't know Brandon Miller from the Ayatollah Khomeini. And they are there to do nothing but cover that piece of the story. They could care less whether Alabama's a 1 seed. They are there about a murder case. And
Absolutely.
that's the next piece of this that Alabama's going to have to deal with.
And in each game, George, they're not just going to have one opponent across from them. They got to beat that dark cloud that's hanging over them. So, boy, if they make a run, congratulations to them. I mean, because they got to beat a lot of people.
They will have gone through a lot of mental baggage to get there. And I'll say this. In the South Carolina game, other than Brandon Miller, the rest of the team looked like they sleptwalked. They looked like the ones in the funk. Against Arkansas in the first half, the whole team looked like they were in a funk. Down 9 at the intermission at home to a pretty good Arkansas. And to their credit, they got their stuff together and, mowed through Arkansas. But Watson, this is taking a toll on this team. There is no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, it's taking a toll, but it could settle in to get all this done unless something else pops up about it. If something else pops up about it, that could be the one to blow the top off.
Let me ask you this question. This is unfair, but I'm going to ask it. Do you think something else is going to pop up?
Oh, I have no idea, but through all my years, it does a lot of times. There's just things that even the coach, you don't know.
Right.
And all of a sudden something pops up again that they found out more, and boom. And that's when it gets really hard, because I think they'll level out if nothing else happens. I do. I think the team will level out and get back to focused. And Brandon has handled it pretty dadgum good. I mean, I'll say he's on the court. He's played some pretty good games since that point.
Sure has.
And his second half the other day was dynamite. I mean, he played really good. So, but the rest of the team got better in that second half. Looked like the old Alabama. But if something else pops up, George, and we just don't know, man, that's when I think it'll really get tough.
I tossed. Go ahead.
They got
Billy.
Auburn at home on Wednesday and then at A&M on Saturday.
Yeah.
No, they got 2 tough games.
So, Watson, I tossed the hand grenade at you. Do you think something else will come up? I believe it's better than 50-50 that the answer is yes.
Oh, it could. It could, and it could not be being hid. It's just it comes out. It comes out that maybe people that at the incident know something else that hadn't said anything, and then it just comes out. I hope and pray it doesn't.
Watson, after the break, plaster bet of the day, and I'll leave you with this thought. You better pay attention.
Oh, boy.
Stay tuned.
Can't wait.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd. The goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Don't miss a minute of the action this season. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets to get your seats today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. And we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
I know it's getting colder. You're not thinking about golf. However, if you're planning an event for next year, let me suggest golf through Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. It's perfect for hosting a corporate or a charitable outing. They've got everything in place to make your event a rousing success. To get more info, call 615-847-5074 or go online to riversidegolflinks.com. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster & Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com and be sure to tell them Plaz sent you. Jody Jones has as nice a dental facility as you'll find anywhere. Let's go in and take a look. Are you in the market for a new dentist? Maybe you're new to Nashville? Well, the place to go is Jody Jones Dentistry at 55 Music Square East, and their new facility is absolutely state-of-the-art. Jody mixes quality with comfort for the perfect dental experience. He's trusted for his creative design and committed to both the function and aesthetics of your smile. Jody is simply the total package. Don't wait. Make an appointment now at 615-259-5100.
Welcome back in. Final segment on a Monday. We're getting ready for Plaster's Bet of the Day. Nice little weekend for Plaz. We'll recap it here in a second. But Bart Durham Injury Law brings you the bet of the day. They are lawyers that you can trust. Give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. Now, George, no fancy graphic today for your results, but your record after going 4-0.
4-0, Watson.
This weekend is 127.
He's not happy at all.
Oh, I'm pleased. I'm just taking a deep breath and getting ready. That's all.
I can tell you're pleased.
Just take a deep breath and get ready.
What's the record?
127 and 18.
118.
I've seen you get past that without asking that question.
Not 18.
Yeah.
More than just 18 losses.
So I had Missouri. I had Vandy. I had Iowa, which was just, shouldn't have won. Who was I had Kentucky.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew most, I had a feeling most of them would hit other than maybe that Iowa game.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't it amazing, Billy, that when he wins, how he goes back through it? And when he loses, let's get to the bet. Put it up there. Let's get to the bet of the day.
Let's move on.
I'm telling you, he's got it down. He is the best front runner I've ever known. He's got it down to a path, to a T. He's got it.
So bitter.
I'm not bitter at all.
You should be happy for your comrade.
I am happy for my comrade, but I just have to sit back and listen once it starts.
Yeah. Well, listen to this. There's a winner in town, and you're watching him.
Oh, God.
Tonight. Tonight, I'm going Iowa State, who got their hat handed to them Saturday at home by Oklahoma. I think they're going to rebound against West Virginia. The line is Iowa State -4.5 at home at the Hilton Center, and we're taking them.
Hilton Magic.
Bingo.
They don't lose there other than last Saturday.
Watson, be happy.
I'm happy for you, George.
I can tell you are.
I am so pleased for you. Just
I can tell.
Go out and eat a steak on me tonight, buddy.
Yeah. Who paid for lunch today?
You did. I wondered how long that would take to come up.
It was the end of the show.
The only reason it's coming up now is you'd forgot about it. I happen to be stupid enough to bring up a meal. So I knew it was coming.
Watson, get rid of your bitterness between now and tomorrow. Go hit a few golf balls, relax, come back in a better mood tomorrow.
I'll see. I got 22 hours. 22 hours. I'll see you then.
Billy, you try to be upbeat as well. Be happy for my success.
I'll try. Watson and I will be upbeat as ever tomorrow.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. Can't wait.
See you tomorrow. We better have a good show, and hopefully Iowa State wins.